So what screen do you see? What screen do you see?
Hey, Wisdom, can you hear that? There's like some really loud banging that's taking place.
Is it still going?
Yeah,
Let me check. I don't hear it on my end. There's not any banging, but let me
I can send you a recording of it just so you can hear it.
got to.
Okay.
I heard it too. Can you all hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, Jamal.
All right, I'm here.
All right, y'all. Thank you for joining us on this webinar this evening. This is a national call. This is going to be our Level Up and Vote 2018 campaign. Thank y'all for signing on, joining on time. We're going to get started. I want to make sure that we are valuing each other's time, and we're going to get finished by 10 p.m. tonight. What I'm going to do is start real quick first is to go over the agenda for tonight's webinar. So in tonight's webinar, Level Up and Vote 2018, we'll be having greetings from Tiffany Dean Lofton, our National Director of the Youth and College Division. We will also be having greetings from our VP of Civic Engagement, Jamal Watkins. Tiffany will be talking to us about what is at stake and fighting racism. Then we will go into our 2018 Level Up and Vote campaign and what that looks like and the different pieces of our campaign. And then we will discuss the youth and college position in the Level Up and Vote campaign. And we will have about 10 minutes for Q&A. And again, please don't forget to follow us on Instagram at NAACP_YC. All right, so now I'd like to pass it to Jamal Watkins, our VP of Civic Engagement, to tell us a little bit about what's happening on the national level with regards to our civic engagement plan, Turnout 18.
Thank you, Wisdom. Thank you, Tiffany. Good evening, Youth and College Division. This is Jamal Watkins. More importantly than me having a job with the NAACP in terms of leading civic engagement, I am literally a child of the association. Started when I was 8. Not in 2000. Started when I was 8 as a part of the Youth and College Division. I'm being part of a youth council in California. And my work and my focus has been really to make sure that as I volunteer and give my time, it really was about building up the Black community and communities of color. So what's happening nationally with civic engagement? I mean, most folks say, what the heck is civic engagement? I know we had a call previously with some leaders from the Youth and College Division, but really what we're talking about is getting folks to go vote, getting folks registered so that they can go vote, and getting folks educated about how they can participate by voting. And if you notice, everything sort of comes back to that one thing, which is voting. We realize that in our communities that, us participating at the ballot box is really about building power and owning our future in terms of policy and how our communities are treated in terms of government. And so over the next 5 years, we are literally focused on how to win, because we know that losing has consequences. When you think about what's happening in Washington, D.C., or what's happening state after state where we did not actually turn out and win, we are suffering from those leaders who don't see us, don't hear us, don't feel our pain, don't understand our needs. and don't take care of our community. And so I'm just bringing you all greetings because I know at the end of the day, it's young people who lead this country. It's young people who will continue to lead this country. And it's young people who are going to transform what our experiences are. And so you're in great hands with your team at the national level in terms of Tiffany, Wisdom, and Quincy. And without stealing her thunder, because I got a lot I can say, but I know that Tiffany is really going to educate the group in regards to what's been happening in terms of the elections that are taking place even this year, and what kind of power can we build given the gains that are being made community after community. But at the end of the day, we need all of you to really lean in and to lead so that, again, in 2022, when we think about 2020, when we think about future elections, that we are in the seat of power and not suffering under the hands of leadership that doesn't understand the needs of our community and see our community, and really at the end of the day doesn't respect us enough to make sure that our needs are taken care of. So I'm going to stop there and thank you all for being on this call and on future calls, and thank you in advance for doing the work.
Thank you so much, Jamal. I really appreciate that. So before I continue going on, I just wanted to introduce myself a little bit. My name is Wisdom Cole. I'm the National Organizing Manager for the Youth and College Division. And next we'll have speaking is Tiffany Dean Lofton, our National Director.
Thank you, Wisdom. If you can go to the next slide for me, folks don't need to look at my face anymore. I want to say good evening to everyone, and thank you so much for joining. We are currently at almost 60. We're at 58 people currently on this webinar. We're at 59 people currently at this webinar. And it is really important for us to have this conversation for a lot of reasons. We're not going to, preach at the choir, because you all know that we talk every single year about why elections are important, why this year is the most important election of your life, why this year we need everybody to turn out and vote, and why especially this year we need young millennials to vote. But I want to give you all context, because I'm sure that you feel the way that I feel when we look at our social media pages, when we talk about what's at stake with police brutality, what's at stake with gang violence in Chicago, which we just saw almost 23 people who were murdered in Chicago and 3 people injured. When we think about Nia Wilson, who was just murdered at the BART in the Bay Area in California. When I think about the police officer who assaulted another Black man in the city of Baltimore that went viral on social media. When I think about the folks who continuously call the police on our communities. When I think about the education system and the Department of Education and student debt still not being solved or tuition increasing. When I think about our communities being disenfranchised and K through 12 not receiving the funding that it's supposed to get, but for some reason they're advocating to give teachers guns in the classroom. When I think about accountability and justice and liberation for our people, I always take it back to this is why we vote. And this is why we use voting as a tactic to get what we need to get done, to see the longer term transformation that we want to see in our communities on the local level. Now more than ever, and people say this every year, the midterm elections, y'all, is the year for us to turn up and level up. It is our opportunity as the Youth and College Division of the NAACP, which represents 550 units across the entire country, 550 chapters across the entire country, which is almost 14,000 young people. It is in our obligation, in our agenda to make sure that we are activating, educating, and mobilizing those 14,000 young people so that they can help change this country for the better. The only way it's going to happen, and the only reason why I love my job, is because I have faith in the folks on the phone. There are now 65 people here, to make sure that what is at stake and what we could lose with our inability to turn people out, with our compliance, with our exhaust, because a lot of people said that they're exhausted, right, of the democracy system that we currently have, because our voices are never heard, etc. What is at stake when we say that, and when we continue to stay in that space, is our entire future. Everything that we have wanted to see changed, now we have the opportunity to begin some of those changes. And there are, if you Google right now, Black millennial voter turnout, or Black people in 2018 midterm elections, or young millennials in 2018 elections, all the headlines you're going to see on Google say, where are they? Are they going to turn out? They have the power, but they might not use it. They didn't turn out in the last few midterm elections the way that they should have. They didn't turn out in the presidential election the way that they should have. It is literally a call to action nationally on where we are. And this year, we're going to level up and make sure that we know and that we tell other people that we haven't gone anywhere and that this work is actually why the NAACP exists. Next slide for me, Wisdom, please. I want to give you all some quick numbers because it's important that when you go back to school, some of you all have already started school and some folks are going back in a few weeks. It's important that you all have a little bit of language and numbers so that you can help articulate this message to other people. I'm not trying to teach y'all what you don't already know. I need to train you all to say it to other people so that we can create disciples, if you will, of the civic engagement work. There are currently 70 million eligible voters between the ages of 18 to 35. 70 million. A recent poll from the Public Religion Research Institute and The Atlantic conducted in June showed only 28% of young adult ages 18 to 29 say that they are absolutely certain that they're going to vote in midterm elections. That is in comparison to 74% of seniors. Only 28% of young adults, the ages of 18 to 29 right now, say that they are certainly going to vote. That's not good enough, y'all. 28% is not good enough. When you have 74% of the seniors say that they're voting, and this is not by race, this is not by gender, this is just by age, and you have 28% of young people who said they're certain, it means that the Youth and College Division has a lot of work to do. It also means that millennials who are projected to surpass baby boomers next year as the United States' largest those boomers used to have. 70 years gives us a very strong, large, powerful block to get what we want. If we had 100% voter registration and 100% turnout, we could get rid of all student debt. We can make water and Wi-Fi free. We can get rid of mass incarceration. We can make education free. We could do everything overnight if we had 100%. But right now in the midterm elections, we only have a commitment of 28% of the young adults who say that they're absolutely certain they're going to vote. So this means that it's our job as organizers and as leaders to make sure that we are activating and educating our peers, our community members, our coalition partners, and potential members of the NAACP to help them understand that maybe as one person we can't do much, but as a collective, we're unstoppable. Next slide, Wisdom. I want to give you all some hope because I have been mad excited about what we've seen in the last couple of weeks, especially when it comes to the primary elections that we've seen. We've seen some massive national narratives around kicking people out of office who are not accountable to the people in the community. If you do not have the best interests, if you are not accountable, if you are not responsive to the members who voted you in office, it is now clear that you are going to be replaced. It has always been clear that we have the power. We haven't been able to exemplify it the way that we currently have seen in the last few weeks and the massive wins that we've seen. Some of those wins that we've transformed include winning primaries in places like Vermont, where the first transgender woman won the governor primary in the history of this country. In Vermont, y'all. Now, I don't know if Vermont's on the phone, but y'all doing some really dope stuff in Vermont. In Georgia, in the primaries, Stacey Abrams got 67% of the Democratic vote, and she won 153 out of 159 of the counties. That's power. People in Georgia are pushing and potentially making this the first Black female governor in the country. We also just saw the displacement of Bob McCulloch, who was the St. Louis County prosecutor who did not charge the officers in the Michael Brown murder. His name is Wesley Bell. He was a criminal justice reform advocate, and he was a social justice organizer in the streets during the uprisings of St. Louis. And he currently just kicked Bob McCulloch out of
Muted.
seat. But people in the community in St. Louis did that. We also saw 36-year-old Omar, who is a Somali refugee immigrant to the United States. And she just beat 6 other candidates in the race to fill the current seat that Representative Keith Ellison, who's now running for a different position, has left vacant. She beat 6 other candidates, y'all. First Somali Muslim woman, and that's in Minnesota. In other additions that you don't see on the slide, in Connecticut, the National Teacher of the Year, Ms. Hayes, could become Connecticut's first Black Democrat in Congress. We've also seen the first 26-year-old woman, Miss Cortez, who in the Bronx was a community organizer and member of the Democratic Socialists of America. She defeated Representative Joseph Cowley, a 19-year incumbent, and she was in Queens, and she has taken the world by storm, y'all, and she's only 26. So we are seeing some massive changes, and the only reason why we see these victories is because young people, people of color, folks from low-income communities, working class people, they are turning out to the polls to demand and say, listen, I'm going to make sure that I vote this year for somebody who's going to represent and respect my value set and my agenda, and somebody who comes from the same experience as me. I'm no longer going to be supporting candidates who ignore my agenda or ignore my people. So I wanted to give y'all some hope, because we don't have to wait for November to see how well we do. We already know that we're winning. We just need to be able to close the gap and close the margin and keep it up. So with that being said, I'm going to go ahead and introduce
Unmuted.
my colleague, Mr. Quincy Adam Bates, who is our National Field Manager, who's going to talk a little bit about this year's campaign and why we're using Level Up. Quincy?
Thank you, Tiffany and Wisdom. Good evening, everyone. I have the pleasure of introducing our NAACP Youth and College Voter Program, which is going to be titled Level Up NAACP. So I know everyone has been wondering, what does Level Up NAACP mean? A couple of days ago, Wisdom, myself, and Tiffany, we put out a poll on Instagram to see what you guys thought we should name our youth and college program this year. And surprisingly, Level Up NAACP won with overwhelming votes. So this year, Level Up is basically us taking our work to the next level. We are going to be doing things that we've never done before, and we are going to be leaning in on our units, our youth and college chapters, youth councils, junior youth councils, and high school chapters to really get on the ground and do the work of the association. In the past, we've kind of, I don't want to say slacked off on giving you guys goals and giving you guys, responsibilities. But this year, we have really done the work. We've done the homework of figuring out what needs to be done. So we're going to be drilling down on you guys to make sure that you all get the work done, make sure that you have the tools, the resources, everything that you need to get this work done. Jamal Watkins, our Vice President of Civic Engagement, has done an outstanding job in really putting together a plan that's going to take NAACP as a whole to the next level. And we've done the work to make sure that youth and college is a part of that. And so that's what Level Up NAACP means. And we are really about to do some great work. And I'm going to talk about a little bit about it in the next few slides. So we have 3 goals for our 2018 program. It's really simple. They're very strategic. And this is within the bandwidth of each of our youth councils, college chapters, high school chapters, junior youth councils. I can't stress this enough that we are relying on everyone to get this work done. So number 1 is increasing voter registration for 18 to 25-year-olds. Simple. We want to register as many 18 to 25-year-olds that we possibly can across the board. We want, whether you're in our top tier states or not, all our youth councils, college chapters, high school chapters, junior youth councils, we want you to register as many 18 to 25-year-olds that you possibly can. Number 2, base building to shift the relationships of power. This is real. We want the NAACP, and I'm going to be real frank, we want the adults of the NAACP to know that they can't get this work done without the Youth in College program. They can't get the work done without our members. We are the ones who's going to really be in the streets. We're going to be the ones that's really going to be out registering people to vote. We're going to be doing the GOTV program. We are going to be the ones who's going to help get us to the point that we need to be. We're going to be the ones that help make sure that this voter 2018 program is a successful program. And 3, we want to educate and turn out all people of color in our communities. Everyone. We want to make sure that you're not just showing up to the polls, that you know exactly what's going to be on the ballots, make sure what's at stake. And ultimately, just because we register people, you know, that's part one, but we want to make sure they know what they're going to be learning and make sure that we get them to the polls. You know, we don't want to forget them once we register them and once we educate them. We want to make sure that we get all people of color to the polls to actually vote. Next slide. The next few slides is going to actually talk about our Youth in College voter program more in detail. So over the next few weeks, we are going to have a couple of webinar sessions that you guys can participate in. That's going to help you really develop your civic engagement skills, help you develop and learn the tools and tactics that's going to be needed to do the work of the association. They're going to be about 2 webinars held per week from now until about October 25th, which is going to engage everyone in the work on regional and state levels. These webinars, we're going to send out emails to our Youth in College data.
All right, so it looks like we've lost some audio with Quincy, but just kind of continue.
Sure, the different counties understanding. Somebody needs something.
Go ahead. Yeah, sorry, we lost audio for a second. Go ahead.
So, drilling down on the taxes and tools of each state. We're going to be doing van training, showing you how to navigate the van system for your state. Also giving best practices for doing work in your states. And then some other webinars we're going to have is going to be voter mobilization, teach you guys how to do some direct contact, do some GOTV, canvassing, door knocking, social polls, things like that. And then ultimately voter protection, making sure that people, when they do turn out to the polls, that they are protected, that they know they have the backing of the NAACP, as well as, laws that protect them at the polls. Next slide. I think that's actually
nice. Thank you so much.
So next slide is actually wisdom, so he's going to take it from here.
Nice. Thank you so much, Quincy. Appreciate that. Really quickly, if you are on the web application for GoToWebinar, at the bottom you'll be able to add questions. At the end of the session, we'll be having a Q&A session. So if you have a question right now of anything that Tiffany has talked about, anything that Quincy has talked about, anything that you heard from Jamal, our VP of Civic Engagement, please drop it below in the questions, and we will be sure to address as many as we can at the end of our session. So the next part, leadership engagement and training. So this coming weekend, actually in Cincinnati, Ohio, we're having a Train the Trainer electoral boot camp. We're actually bringing 20 new certified NAACP electoral organizers to be trained. And so it's going to be a boot camp training where students are going to go through the electoral process, but more so, not just the electoral process, but how to become trainers so they can go back to their campuses and continue to train other new leaders, right? If you look at the history of the Youth in College at the NAACP, there actually hasn't been much strategic visioning or training around our young leaders. And so what we want to do this year and in this moment is actually take that back and actually make sure that we have students who are trained to go onto campuses and to work with y'all to actually make sure we have successful electoral campaigns, that if we are having issues around what our next steps are to do, we have people in the field who can support you along with folks at the national office. So in this 3-day boot camp, The students will be building a campus vote plan. They'll be working on best practices. They'll be learning how to recruit and retain volunteers. They'll be learning about what to do on election day and what to do after election day. And so it's going to be a rigorous training. We have some very powerful trainers who are going to be coming to help us learn different training techniques, styles, presentation styles, what happens when people are trying to misdirect you or give you false messages. So it's going to be a wonderful weekend. And as soon as those folks get trained, we want y'all to tap in and to be able to connect with those folks. So next up, we have our level up and vote goals. So thinking about voter registration in terms of mathematics, right? If you are on average, so on average, it takes 1 hour for an organizer to collect 5 to 7 voter registration cards, right? You can think about this at if you're going to a campus event, if you're going to a community event, if you are canvassing around your neighborhood, on average, you should be able to collect 5 to 7 voter registration cards, right? So if you're an organizer, right, you're a student organizer, and you're given 5 hours a week, right? So you think of Monday through Friday, 1 hour every day. That's about a total of about 25 cards at minimum, right? If you connect with 10 other organizers on your campus, everyone's giving 1 hour each day, Monday through Friday. That's 250 new voter registration cards in 1 week. 250 registration cards in 1 week, just from 10 people spending 1 hour each day doing voter registration, right? So that same group did it for 3 weeks. That's 750 voter registration cards right there, right? That's beginning to build power, right? And so it's not too difficult to see how these systems play into one another, where you connect with the people that you're working with in your unit, you connect with the people you're working with on the ground, and you're spending 1 hour a day doing voter registration, dedicated and committed on a schedule. We can get to the goals that we want to see. So if we think about the arc of our civic engagement per campus and school, right? So looking at your campus, looking at your school, you can even say possibly like in a small community center, right? When we start our Level Up 2018 launch, right? What we're trying to do in our first week is get 250 registered voters, right? And so along that pathway, we'll be having our new leader train the trainer. We'll also be scheduling campus vote trainings, right? So if you're interested in having campus vote trainings on your campus or getting resource materials, feel free to contact us at NAACPnet.org or reach out to me. I'll provide my email at the end of the webinar. But if you're interested in that, definitely it's possible to do. You should be doing voter registration throughout that first week. And by the end of the second week, you're getting 500 new voters, right? Along with that, we'll also be doing 15 webinar trainings, as Quincy said. So along the way, we'll be doing state-specific as well as region-specific training. So each region will have an opportunity to get one-on-one training, to get training on different tools and tactics for voter registration, for voter engagement, and voter mobilization. And so make sure you tune into those schedules. That'll be sent out at the end of the webinar. So you can put that on the calendar, you can get it locked in, you can get it set. All the webinars are going to be at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And so you'll be ready to engage in that as soon as that is out. Through week 2 to week 3, you're going to be submitting voter registration numbers and signed MOUs for vote boxes, right? At the end of week 3, you should have 750 people registered to vote. You should be making sure that you're databasing your voters. You're making sure you have your numbers. In a minute, I'm going to talk about a way for you to do that easier and also do that with the national level, but there'll be like post-its going along with that as well. You're continuing to do voter registration through week 3 to week 4. At the end of week 4, you should be getting about 1,000 voters registered. There'll be continued webinar trainings through that week. And then you're going to be submitting your voter registration numbers to order to get out the vote boxes. And then on September 21st, we'll be having National Voter Registration Day. So when you're thinking about this is just 1 month, right? So on 1 month, you're getting 1,000 people registered to vote with 10 people, right? So 10 key organizers are working in the field every day for 1 hour, registering people to vote. By the end of that month, you'll get 1,000 people registered to vote. So something I wanted to talk about is the Level Up and Vote 2018 vote box. So as soon as you are able to get 500 voter registrations signed and an MOU, what we want to do is you'll be able to order vote boxes from the national office. So what this vote box includes is clipboards, pledge cards, voter registration post-its, right? So voter registration post-its are ways where we can make sure we are databasing the people that we are registering to vote. In addition to those post-its, you'll be getting posters, t-shirts, and NAACP Youth and College pins and stickers, right? So these are ways for you to deck out your table, to deck out your swag, right? It's a really good way when you're canvassing to give out to people, to also give to your volunteers, right? Because you might have more than 10 key organizers. You might have more than 10 students doing this work on your campus. And so the more people you have, the more people are getting registered, the more swag we can have, the more ways we can make sure that folks are engaged in this process. So I'm going to pass it back over to Quincy to talk about the types of voter registration and GOTV tactics.
Awesome. Thanks, Wisdom. So take a moment to briefly talk about the different types of voter registration and get out to vote tactics. For voter registration and for GOTV, we want you guys to do some tabling. Think about different events and programs that you can attend to set up a table and do voter registration. You can do it at church. You can do it at programs and like town hall meetings, or you can do it at festivals and things like that in your community. Class reps, those who are on college campuses, you can go to different classes and ask for a brief moment to talk to the students about registering to vote, and also getting those kids registered. There's always door knocking, canvassing is it's grassroots tool, getting out in the streets and knocking on people's doors and telling them about the elections and seeing if they're registered to vote. If they're not, you register them to vote. You can also do this on college campuses and dorm rooms, as well as campus housing and things like that. Just check with your campus residential living offices to make sure that everything's okay. You have tailgating at football games, like that's going on right now, soccer games, baseball games, things like that, where people are out having a good time. You can walk around the tailgate and check and see, who's registered to vote, who's not. That's also a great area to do some tabling also. Building coalitions, this is very important. We know that we are strong in doing this work, but we can't do it all by ourselves. So it's important that we work with other organizations. On college campuses, you can work with Divine Nine organizations. You can work with SGA. You can work with your different ethnic organizations on campuses, non-Greek organizations. You can work with the different colleges on the different college campuses and the programs and organizations that they have within those colleges. On the youth councils, you can work with Top Teens of America. You can work with the Jack and Jill organizations, community groups, things like that to build coalitions to do voter registration, to do GLTV. The more, the merrier. The more people we have, the more power we have, and we get things done. Souls to the polls, which is important. On Sundays, we can travel to different churches and do some GOTV there, especially when it get closer to election time and maybe early voting. You guys can work with your branches. You can work with the church to actually transport people from church to the polls to vote and back to church and whatnot like that. But also making sure that you are doing some voter registration at your churches. So you can also doing some GOTV, passing out information at churches as people are coming out of church, people are going in church. Football games, like I said earlier, setting up tables at your football games. One thing I learned that if you have multiple people, you can set up a table, but also have people walk around the stands with voter registration cards and seeing who needs to register to vote. Also passing out pamphlets and things like that, reminding people when election day is and where they can go and vote. Debate watches, host debate watches where different candidates are debating against each other, and there you can also do voter registration. This also gives the community, this gives your campus people attending an opportunity to see what's on the ballot and also see the type of people who are being elected and making sure that they get a good grasp of the candidates. Online recruiting, making sure that you are sharing with your community, sharing with your campuses, how they can go and register to vote online if that's an option. Also, how they can use online to find out their polling location, find out, what time polls open, what time the polls close, make sure that they're going to the right polling location. Phone banking. This is also very important, very grassroots, getting on the phone and calling people, make sure that they are registered to vote, make sure that they know about election day, make sure they know about the type of election that's going on in their area. If there's anything on the ballot that they need to be concerned about, things like that, phone banking. And it's going to be also very important when we do our VAN training that you participate, because we're going to show you how you can use the VAN system to do your phone banking. Town hall meetings, like I said, you set up a voter registration table there and make sure that you can get people registered as they come and go from town hall meetings. Host mock debates on your campuses and parties. We all love parties. We all attend parties every day. especially right now. It's not every day, but when weekends, especially now that school is getting started, all kind of parties are being thrown. So try to set up a table at parties so you can do some voter registration, pass out some information as people are coming and going, just to make sure that we aren't missing any opportunity to register people to vote, and also make sure that they know about election day and things that's on the poll, educating our constituents on this year's election. Next slide. Things to remember. This is very important. Plan your deadlines and know the rules. Make sure you know when is the date that voter registration ends in your county, in your communities, in your states. Make sure you know how much time you have to hold the forms, when they have to be turned in from the time that you get people to sign up to register to vote. Always collect data, name, email, address, and phone. But be very strategic when you're collecting this data. I know in a lot of counties, a lot of areas, you cannot take pictures of voter registration forms. You cannot photocopy them. You can't scan them, nothing like that. Now, look, I'm being real with you. If you guys get caught taking pictures of this information as you're trying to collect it, copying it, ain't nothing we can do for you. That's between you and your local county officials. But what we are going to do, we're going to provide Post-its for you that you can use and put on your voter registration cards, so that when people are filling out their voter registration card, they can also fill out that Post-it with their name, their email, address, and phone number. And we use this information to follow up with these people after we make the initial contact, because we don't want to just register them to vote. We want to educate them, and we want to make sure they get out to vote. Use every opportunity to recruit new members. Every time you're doing a voter registration drive, this is also a membership drive. You should have membership applications right next to those voter registration applications. As they are signing that form, you've already got them to sign that form to register to vote. Go ahead and pitch your membership also. Making sure that you have pamphlets on voter registration and pamphlets on what it means to be a member of the NAACP. And finally, not finally, but your volunteers matter. Make sure you take care of people who are volunteering to do this work. Make sure that you have water for them. If you are able to have snacks for them, make sure you have snacks. Don't overwork your volunteers to the point where they don't want to come back. Make sure it's fun. Make sure they have an opportunity to really engage in whatever event they're participating in, but also that they are taking heed, that they're there to make sure, we get people registered to vote. Make sure that your volunteers matter. Like I said, no one is getting paid for this work. Everyone's volunteer. So we want to take care of them, make sure they're comfortable, make sure, that they're having fun, because the work is fun, but it's work. So we want to make sure that they're good, and make a plan to keep up with the people you've registered. This is, like I said, when we collect that data, we want to make sure that these people are educated, and we want to make sure that they turn out to vote. So have a plan that a couple of days before the election date, you're calling these people to remind them of their polling location, reminding them that you have from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. to go out and vote, keeping in touch with them, and following the election day, invite them out to your general body membership meetings, letting them know about other things that your youth council, your college chapter, high school chapter, junior youth council have going on, so that we can keep them engaged in the work of the NAACP. Next slide.
Thank you so much, Quincy. I appreciate that a lot. So we are wrapping up our presentation pretty soon. And so we have about 20 minutes for question and answer. So again, if you are on the web application for GoToWebinar, at the bottom, there's a place where you can write questions at. We have some questions that are being submitted right now. I'm going to go over those questions with myself, Tiffany, and Quincy. And if you have a question, drop it there below and we will answer it. So looking at our questions right now. So first I see Moran and Henry, shout out to Region 1 board member, saying he's very excited. I'm glad that folks are excited to be here, excited to get on this work, because we have a lot of work to do, but we also have a lot of strength, a lot of great people to do that work. We have a person asking, is there a way for us to get a copy of this slideshow? So after this webinar, I'll be sending out this presentation, as well as the schedule for the upcoming webinars for the rest of the fall. And so if you see your city, you see your region, please definitely put that in your calendar to get connected. Again, there's our Youth in College email, so youthincollege@naacpnet.org. If you have further questions, feel free to reach out to us anytime, and we will connect you with the right resources. I get a couple folks ask, what is an MOU? So an MOU means a memorandum of understanding. And so essentially what we're asking for is after you register 500 people to vote, right? So at the end of week 2, once you register 500 people to vote, you're going to send us we're going to draft up a memorandum of understanding saying that we're going to give you a voter registration box that has clipboards, pledge cards, voter registration post-its, posters, t-shirts, pins, and stickers, right? And it's basically just an agreement saying that, hey, we're giving you this box to do voter registration stuff, and you're not going to take it to use to do other stuff, but that you're actually going to use it for what we decided and what we talked about originally. And so that's only the purpose of the MOU, which is an agreement. The next question that we had is, what does GOTV mean? So GOTV is just get out the vote. So that's thinking about any tactics and tools that we need to do to get out the vote, to get out voter education material. That's what GOTV is. We had a question about what does the asterisk represent on, I believe, the screen where Quincy was talking about voter registration and GOTV tactics. Could you talk about that, Quincy, real quick?
Yes. So the asterisks mean those are things that you can do during GOTV. So a lot of that was things that we want you to do to focus on voter registration. If it has an asterisk, you can do it for voter registration as well as GOTV, which is get out to vote, which is educating people in the community about the election and actually making sure that they turn out to vote on election day.
Nice. We had a question about where can we get and order pamphlets. So if you're looking for this slide or any educational materials, then feel free to contact us and we will get you any educational materials. But like we talked about earlier, right, in terms of, think of it as like a voter care package. To get this voter care package, what you're going to be doing is that you're going to be making sure that you have the right voter registration forms for your city, for your state, so you can register people to vote, right? So look at like what are the resources that you have on your campus already that you can use to do the first initial 500. And once you get that 500, we will send you the pledge cards, voter registration post-its, posters, t-shirts, pins, and stickers. David Johnson, Tennessee, you're all amazing. Proud to serve the NAACP. Again, thank y'all for being here on this call. We have nearly 75 people on this call who are joining, amazing leaders, amazing people who are here to actually do this work. And so thank you all again for spending this time, spending this hour to be here with us to talk about our civic engagement plan. Can we get access to the VAN system before the webinars? So what we're going to be working on this semester is doing VAN training for state-specific regions. So we will also be at state conventions this year. So both me, Tiffany, and Quincy will be going to several state conventions in October, in September, before Election Day. And so when we're there on the ground, we'll also be doing VAN training and talk about access to the VAN system. MOUs will be sent out to folks. Is there a cost for the voter registration box that we can order after we get 500 people registered? If so, what is the cost? So go ahead, Tiffany.
Yeah, so thank you for the question, y'all. So the voter registration box, the vote box, which is what we're calling it, the vote box is not going to cost you any money as long as you can meet your 500 voter registration goal and prove it to us, right? As long as you can say, I've registered on my campus with my volunteer team 500 voter registration cards. You're going to complete a form online that will go live next Monday. So August 27th is when that link will go live. There's a small paragraph that explains what's in the box and what you're supposed to do when you get that box. And it is important that you all fill out the rest of the form so that we know where to send the box. So there has to be a person's name, their address, the zip code, etc. Then we will mail out those boxes so that you can get it. We want to be very clear that we're going to do our best, and I'm sure Jamal's still on the phone. We're going to do our best to try to get you as many as possible. Remember, we're doing a national voter registration campaign. So it's actually going to be really, really important that we number how many shirts we're sending out and how many clipboards we're sending out, because you might ask for 300 and another school might ask for 25. So we're going to be making those decisions ourselves, but you will fill out the form, request how many people you're working with, prove to us that you've done voter registration, 500 cards, right? We want to make sure people are doing the work. And then that box will be mailed to you at no cost to you, as long as you are doing that work. Now, I will say, you all know that the NAACP has bylaws when it comes to being in compliance. And so I'm going to ask that you all work with the staff team, myself, Wisdom, and Quincy, to make sure that you're actually in compliance, so that when we do send you these boxes, we don't get any pushback from your local leadership. Because if you aren't in compliance with your local leadership, they will call the national office and snitch on you. So I need to make sure that you all fill out that information as well. But I don't want you all to let that prohibit you from doing the voter registration work this year. So please, as soon as you hit 500 voter registrations, next Monday on August 27th, it'll be live, and you can find the form on any one of our emails or on our Instagram page, on our website, etc., and you can get your box for free there.
And just to kind of go off what Tiffany was saying, think of this Level Up and Vote campaign as a way to support the development of your units, right? So having people asking questions about trainings, about scheduling trainings and things like that. With the resources that come with this Level Up and Vote campaign, this is an opportunity to get into compliance, to get trainings for new leaders that you have in your units, in your states, for folks that you want to bring in, or you want people to join the NAACP Youth in College. Like, this is a really great way to get people to, like, hey, you want to get activated, you want to join, you want to see what's actually happening in the NAACP. This is a great way to facilitate that process. A question I got for Quincy is, can you please explain how mock debates can be beneficial?
I'm sorry, read the question one more time.
Can you please explain how mock debates can be beneficial?
So with the mock debates, you guys can use that as a tool to really educate our communities, educate your campuses on the tools. I mean, on election day, or educate them on things that's going to be on your pamphlet. I mean, not your pamphlet, things that's going to be on your ballot. Excuse me. As well as using this as an opportunity to encourage students to get out to vote, encouraging them to participate in this process. So you're basically, using this as a tool to push GOTV. Everything, like I say, all the different types that's on this list is tools to push GOTV and to push voter registration.
I have someone asking about knowing what region that you're a part of, and I would say just kind of getting connected again with the NAACP. We have a site that's kind of up and running and going with some information about regional areas. And so if you're interested in knowing what region or getting tapped into who is in your region or who's in leadership in your region, definitely contact us, Youth in College at naacpnet.org. I had a question asking about scheduling your campus vote training. Is that webinars or someone coming to our campus to visit? So it's a little bit of both, right? So we have region-specific webinars that are going to be taking place all through this election cycle, right? And so as soon as that's sent out, definitely make sure you are tapped in for that webinar training. But if you would like more than just webinar training, so just a little talk a little bit about what's going to be going on during these webinar training events, is that we will be talking about the nitty-gritty that Quincy talked about on the online education slide. So we'll be talking about how to recruit, like what are recruiting strategies, how do you get volunteers, right? So you might be a very, very large unit. You might be a very small unit, right? And you're wanting to become a larger unit. You want to make sure you have these people or hands on deck to actually move for voter registration, right? We can talk about how to recruit trainers, how to message your electoral campaign, how to do voter registration outreach and get pledge cards, right? We'll be talking about various tactics and tools, best practices on these calls. But if you would like further, right, further training, right? You know, people always want more and more training. They want people to come to the ground, right? If possible, we will be able to, what we're trying to do is that when we go to these different state conventions is look for local colleges that are actually doing this work so that we can connect with y'all and move on the ground with you. If that is not a possibility, what we want to do is be able to send y'all resources for you to be able to build your units and to do campus vote training with possibly trainers who are coming from our trainer this coming weekend, right? So we have people who are students in the NAACP who are getting trained who can actually come to your campus and support you in campus vote trainings.
Hey, Wisdom, I just got a question about compliance. What does it take to be in compliance? Simple. You must have 25 members in your unit. You must have paid your unit assessment fee of $75 prior to March 1st, or actually on March 1st. And you must have turned in your financial assessment form. If you have questions about your compliance, you can reach out to any of us, or you reach out to me directly, and I'll check that compliance for you. And if your unit is out of compliance, we're going to do our best to make sure that you get in compliance so that you can get this work done. Like I said, if you have any questions, just let us know. You can let any of us know. We'll make sure that we check and find out if you are compliant or if you're not compliant. And if you aren't, we're going to figure out what we can do to get you in compliance so that you can get this stuff done. And if you aren't compliant, and you know it's going to take us a little while, we're still going to try our best to help you. But like Tiffany said, you know, we do have rules about compliance, but we will do our best to help you and assist you in getting this work done.
Tiffany, I had a question for you. So you talked earlier about increasing voter registration will make it possible for us to do things like increasing school funding, lower incarceration rates, and such. So if a student is explaining that to a potential voter and they ask how would you explain how that works?
Great question. So depending on whatever the issue is, they're going to be very, very, very different. When we think about education and the folks who make the decisions and sign the contracts with for-profit student loan debt profiteers, people like Sallie Mae, or not people, but institutions like Sallie Mae, Great Lakes, which are student loan debt collection agencies. If you've graduated, then you, like me, and you got student debt, then you know what I'm talking about. The folks who sign those contracts and help negotiate some of those policies in the contract, the people who help talk about Common Core and decide what books are not going to be in the school and what books will be in the school, those folks are all elected. Now, here's the problem. You can't articulate what you don't know. And so there are important issues that are happening in your community that we want to change. And if we understand what we want to change them to, we can understand who is the target person that can get us what we want. In that simple case, Betsy DeVos, who is I'm going to say this, and this is not on behalf of the NAACP, who is not qualified to do her job. Oh, slides are switching. She's not on that slide. You can go to question and answer for me. Thank you. So Betsy DeVos, who is the Secretary of Education, who, in my personal opinion, is not qualified to do her job, but makes all of those decisions that I've outlined and named, and also works with the state Secretary of Education in each one of our states and negotiate with them. If we want to be at the table and not on the menu, then we have to be able to hold those folks accountable. Now, Betsy DeVos is not elected. She's appointed by the president of the country. So you know how that goes. But when we talk about midterm elections, the people who we are electing into Congress, both the House and in the Senate, serve on committees that approve the appointments made by the president. They approve or they stop them. And so it's our job to be able to understand, and you don't have to be a political science major to understand this. You just have to know what it is that you want to change in your community and what is it that you want. And when you understand the connection between those things, it becomes easier for all of us to be organizers, to tell other people how you get it done. If somebody says to me, Tiffany, Black Lives Matter, which I agree, and we see police accountability, or we don't see police accountability, but we see a lot of folks being killed, or we want to talk about gun reform, which we've been talking about all year as a youth and college division, then how do we get those changes in the policy? People who are elected make those decisions, and we elect the people who make those decisions. So it's always a way to pivot. How do we connect it back to our individual choice? Nothing in this democracy exists without voting. And so we just have to figure out, how does voting connect to it? It takes practice and it takes learning. But the good news is the Youth and College Division will be organizing a lot of these webinars in the next couple of weeks. And when you join these webinars, we're going to be training, practicing, role playing, and we'll be giving examples more like this so that you can take this information back into your schools and into your campuses to share with the rest of your membership.
Thanks so much, Tiffany. Appreciate that a lot. So then the last question that we're going to answer before we finish up, and just a reminder, after this webinar is over, I'll be sending out a survey to everybody who attended the webinar. So just how did you think the webinar went, different questions that you had. If you have further questions, definitely feel free to put that into the survey and we'll get back to you as soon as possible. I'm seeing some more questions pop up at the bottom and I will address those and contact y'all personally. But I had a question about youth councils collaborating with their local college chapters. And what I want to say to that is yes, yes, yes. We want to really encourage collaboration with our youth councils and our college chapters, right? So if you are part of your youth council, right? Or if you are under 18, right? How do you connect with your college campuses or community centers to do voter registration and do the GOTV work that we are talking about and how to mobilize voters, right? So get connected with people, collaborate, right? We're stronger in numbers. And the more people that you were able to reach within our units, the more people we're able to get to turn out to the vote. And so we definitely want to encourage you to collaborate. If you are thinking about ways to do voter coalition or collaborate with other people or other partners on campus, we'll be doing a webinar on that as well, right? Talking about how to build power on campus with other organizations, with people who are like-minded in your region, in your state, in your city, on your campus. So we are going to be wrapping up our webinar right now. Real quick, is any last minute information you want to put out, Tiffany or Quincy, before we wrap up?
No, that's it. Wisdom, tell them where they can find the next webinar, when the next webinar is taking place, and how they can register for it.
So the next webinar will be, let me check my calendar really, really quickly. So we will having thinking about August, September, and October. In August, we'll be having 3 webinars. So this is our first webinar, our first call to action. We'll be having 2 webinars next week, one on August 28th and one on August 30th, right? And those will be regional webinars. And so right after that, right after this call, I'll send out the schedule for webinars so you can connect with your specific regional webinar as well as your state webinar. From the context that we have now, right? So if you see on our youth and college page, as well as on the NAACP page, you should be able to register for these webinars. And we will continue to send out links for registration, as well as information for the upcoming webinars for this fall semester. Quincy, any last words?
Like I said, we all are very excited about the work that's coming down the pipeline. We are really going to be relying on you guys to do the work of the association. If you have any questions, if you need any help, please do not hesitate to reach out to Tiffany, Wisdom, or myself. We are here to work with you guys. Notice I said work with you. You know, we're not going to let you do this on your own. We are here side by side with you. You guys know that we are always available. Just shoot us an email. We'll do our best to help you and make sure that we all win come November 6th, November 8th, one of the dates. But yeah.
Nice. Thank you, Quincy. And real quick, if you go to naacp.org/civic engagement, you'll see our Turnout 2018 campaign. And there is a list of all the webinars that come up for the fall semester in a PDF there. Real quick, I know Jamal Watkins is still on the phone. If you'd like to say anything real quick before we wrap up.
I just wanted to thank you all for being on the webinar. Thank you, Wisdom, Tiffany, Quincy, for really, doubling down and leading on this. And, just so that folks know, the national team, the team of Quincy, Wisdom, and Tiffany, are also actively fundraising so that there are more resources that can be pushed into the field. And so in the coming weeks, we're hoping that we can start to support you all with some additional resources depending on your location, because we want to make sure that there are no barriers to you all doing the amazing work that we know the Youth and College Division can do as it relates to engaging with voters, turning out voters, and making sure that we're building independent political power in our communities. But thank you.
Yes. Thank you so much, Jamal. Appreciate that a lot. So again, please definitely fill out those surveys. Check out the schedule. The surveys help us make these webinars better and better. Please tell us what y'all need. Tell us what the support you need to do, because we are here to support y'all and to help y'all be the best units you can do and to turn out the vote 18, right? So let's level up the NAACP, and thank y'all so much for being on this call.